Hello and welcome back to another history slash looking at reports video. And this time I'm going to talk about a topic that there are actually quite a few videos on the internet already, namely the development of the STG-44. Many of these videos are about stuff like why did Hitler not want this weapon and stuff like that. I think I'm going to go into a slightly different direction, into a more detail-oriented one, and there will be a lot of information that I believe is basically new to most people who have not looked into the documents, so there will be some original research in this. Basically what I will do is not look at the complete development history, but one specific aspect, which is when was the STG-44, or rather its prototypes, first actually used in combat at the front, and how did that go and what did that look like. So yeah, there's actually a lot of kind of misinformation about that. The MKB42, which you can see in this picture here, which is the prototype of the STG-44, was quite infamously added to the Red Orchestra 2 video game. And the devs back then claimed that there was proof that it was used in Stalingrad. Now, this is completely wrong. The weapon was not used already back then at the front. It was also not used in the pocket of Kolm. This is something that we often hear, that they were airdropped to an encircled German unit at Kolm, where in order to help them break out, or, you know, there's variations of this rumor. This is also wrong. There is an MKB42 that is at the museum in Kolm, but this is not originally from that battle. So yeah, there's that. So when were they first used? Well, they were first given to Army Group North, or Heeresgruppe Nord, and this was in April 1943, so after the Stalingrad pocket had already surrendered. And this was supposed to be a test at the front line of this weapon. So, what did they exactly test? Oh, first of all, I should say, they were issued to the following divisions. So these were the first divisions that actually used the MKB42 or STG-44, however you want to see it. It was the 1st, the 11th, the 21st, the 212th, and the 93rd Infantry Divisions, and the 18th Motorized Divisions. So yeah, as you can see, there were no like Panzer divisions or other elite divisions like Fallschirmjäger, and there also were no SS divisions involved in this prototype test. It was all normal Wehrmacht troops. So despite the despite the fascination of many people on the internet with the SS and them getting all the cool weapons, they were not actually involved in testing this gun. It was completely an army project. So how did these tests actually look like? So let's say you are, first of all, we should probably say, I found this neat picture. There were two MKB42 prototypes. Now the Walther one was rejected, and as far as I know, this one was not tested at the front, at least not according to the documents. I've never found any reference to that. That said, there's apparently at least one that they found in the mud somewhere at the, in Russia. So I guess they used them somehow. But I've not yet found any direct proof of how exactly that worked. These first tests were done with this model here, the MKB42H, H standing for Hänel, which is the firm that made them. As you can see, they are already pretty close to the later versions here, the MP43 and then the STG-44, which only have minor production differences but are essentially the same gun. There's probably more differences between guns produced by two factories than by like MP43 and STG-44. So yeah, same gun basically. Okay, so let's say you are in a division and you will take part in this test. You will get this questionnaire here. I won't go through all the questions, but some interesting things here. So first of all, this is a technical questionnaire for the troop trial with the MKB42H. And it already says für Ausführung A, type A. In the further documents you will see that they don't actually, beyond this one, refer to this gun as the MKB42H, they refer to it as the MP43A. And this is for the following reason. The MKB42A is a interim solution. So this gun was already, when they tested it, it was already seen as obsolete. The MKB42A is a weapon that is of the type of the MP40. That means an open bolt gun, which apparently led to problems both with dirt and with accuracy. The final weapon, MP43, is a weapon has a closed bolt, like a rifle, which is what was introduced. So this final weapon that later directly became the SDG-44 is in the documents referred to as an MP43B, and the prototype is referred to as an MP43A. This is a bit confusing because we usually say an MKB, but whenever I say MP43A, I mean an MKB42H. This is what they used in the divisional reports. So there's technical questions here. How accurate is it? How good are the sights? Are there any problems with it in terms of technical problems? Can these be solved and so on, blah, blah, blah. I won't go into all these technical issues. Many of these are also about peripherals, you know, like the magazine and also magazine bags here and stuff like that. I mean, it's on the screen. If you want to read it, you can. And they also ask about additional tips by the troops. You know, what kind of suggestions do you have? Now, what's interesting and what the actual point was of this test, because they already knew that the weapon was outdated and had technical difficulties due to the open bolt design. What's actually interesting is question 22. Which weapons can be replaced by the MKB42H or the MP43? So the Germans obviously wanted to replace as many weapons in production as possible with this new gun, namely the submachine gun, the MP40, the rifle obviously, the self-loading rifle, and they also were thinking about replacing with it the light machine gun at the squad level. And they wanted to test this in combat and get the feedback of the troops using it. And then in the end, the last question is, do you actually think we should introduce this weapon, basically? Now, this is the divisional report by the 93rd Infantry Division, which is one of the divisions taking part in the test. Reports by other divisions who took part are actually also available, but this would make the video even longer. So by now you already know this part here. We look at the artillery, so they had here heavy howitzers, only 2 per battery in some cases, so they were kind of low on those. Light howitzers too as well here, pretty standard stuff. We have here the recon troops, ersatz troops, so for training. They have pioneers here. I think these here are flamethrowers. And yeah, now if we look at the infantry, which is what actually used these and tested these, we have here 2 infantry regiments, the 272nd and the 270th. I have some examples of reports. I won't show all of them, it's quite a lot actually, but I have some examples of reports by both of these regiments and subunits of them, especially the 272nd though. Now if we look at the organization here, some things are actually kind of unusual. For one thing, if you look at the company organization, they mark the MG42s extra. So they have 4 MG42s and 8 miscellaneous light machine guns, as well as 3 Panzerschrecks. And the same here, so 12 light machine guns all in all, which actually points to a completely equipped infantry company in every case. So MG42s and 8 light machine guns. What's still a bit unusual is that they still have 3 light 50mm mortars in each company, 1 for each platoon. This weapon was actually on the way out and deemed obsolete, but they still had them. What's also kind of interesting is that you can see here there were medium French machine guns medium French infantry guns or something. There you will see there were actually quite a few French and Russian weapons in this division as well. Especially here, you can sometimes see, I know it's a bit blurry, but you can see, for example, here with the machine guns there's 12 plus 1. That usually means there's 12 German ones and a captured one, but it's a bit unclear. Because if we look at the overall weapons that they had, First of all, let's look at the German ones. Obviously K98K, but quite a few so Gewehre T rifles check, probably VZ24 rifles, and as you can see, many of the infantry must have had those. 200 sniper rifles, K98K, that's quite a few. Only a few G41s, then you had the usual rifle grenade launchers, MP38 and MP43A, so these 209 here are the prototypes that they received for testing. So 209 in one go, and then pistols, miscellaneous pistols. So if we look real quick at looted weapons, 5 Russian light grenade launchers, and in several cases here it says in Kriegsgliederung enthalten equals 4, which means that these are theoretically on the first page. So some of these weapons that are here, for example, some of these light mortars were apparently Russian ones, so they didn't have enough German ones to fill them up with Russian ones. And the same is apparently true in this division with many machine guns, because they had 3 Russian heavy MGs, Maxims probably, that were actually used in the front lines and are in this document. 74 French heavy machine guns and 65 DP Russian machine guns. With these numbers, it is quite likely that a significant part of the frontline infantry in these divisions was actually equipped, for example, with DP light machine guns. They also had some Russian rifles, including 7 self-loading rifles. So yeah, this division was not necessarily completely equipped up to snuff with German weapons. One thing I should mention, by the way, is that, as I said, this was done in Army Group North, and this division was also part of that. And in Army Group North, the fighting at this time would be similar to World War I, trench warfare with very little forward movement, and it would be very forested. Also interesting is there's additional weapons here, light machine gun 0815, World War I, heavy version, and 2 additional medium mortars. And it says these are in reserve for the alarm battalion. So basically these are rear line troops that if there was a breakthrough would be thrown into the front line as one alarm battalion, and they would then use these reserve weapons, World War I stuff. And so that's quite interesting as well. But okay, enough about that. Let's look actually at the reports. What did they think about the MKB42 or MP43A, as they said back then? So first of all, I won't read through all of this, but generally speaking, all of these are quite positive. They say that basically the MP43 is up until 250 meters pretty accurate, but that if you shoot fire bursts, you notice that it pulls to the right and upwards. So the recoil pulls right and to the and upwards, right? And that because of that, it's inferior to the MG34 and MG42. Other than that, though, they are pretty positive, and they say here that when you fire it in bursts, it is far superior when you shoot it from the hip to the rifle, the MG, and the MP40. By the way, I should say this is the actual report by the division, right? The main report. We will look at lower level stuff later. Now, generally, these things here are about technical problems, and this is about how much ammunition they used. Now, here it gets interesting again. The MP43 can replace the MP38, MP40, also the carbine, but only if they develop a scope mount and a rifle grenade launcher, which they never did actually. A scope did exist, but it was apparently almost never used. Also, it replaces the G41, but you cannot actually replace the MG with it, especially in open terrain, because of the higher distance. That's what they also say. And this divisional commander also has a let's say a dream squad that he envisions. This is what he thinks the German army should look like in the future. And I have taken this and I actually took the liberty of creating a visualization. This is what they envisioned. So you had this kind of squad. This would be a standard German infantry squad in the future. You had, of course, the platoon HQ, and every group would be identical with a squad leader, a machine gunner, an assistant for the machine gunner who only would have a pistol, and then assistant squad leader and so on. The rest all with STG-44, so MP43s rather. One in each squad with a scope, and one in each squad with a rifle grenade attachment. So this is basically what they wanted. This is what they thought would be the ideal German infantry squad during this war. First of all, what we should probably look at is this next report here. So these are the troops that actually used this. So this is an experience report about the MP43A, and it's from the 1st of September 43, so the same day that divisional chart was posted. Okay, so, and he says here, this is a guy from a Grenadier Regiment 272, and he's in the Radfahrzug, that means in the bicycle platoon. So I don't know if this shows even shows up, in the divisional chart, but we have here this 272nd Regiment. There is no real bicycle platoon. I assume that they maybe just made an ad hoc group, like a scout platoon, maybe attached to the regimental HQ, that was taken from personnel from all these units, but I'm not 100% certain. But it would be like an infantry platoon mounted on bicycles, basically. So yeah, the STG-44 apparently first tested by bicycle troops. And he says they used the bicycle platoon used the new weapon since May 1943. And it is only equipped with the new MP43A and with rifle grenade launcher adapters for the K98K. And it says here that there are 7 MP gunners and 1 rifle grenadier in each squad. So basically, and I'm pretty sure this is new research, I've never seen this anywhere on the web, this is what it looked like in early to mid 1943 when they tested the MKB42. I made some new icons for that because we don't have it in Forgotten Op 2. So this is what this would have looked like. Everybody equipped with MKB42s and 1 guy in support with a rifle grenade launcher. They didn't use MG42s or anything in this organization for these bicycle troops. But yeah, so this was a testing organization that actually fought at the front, the first to use the MKB42. Now, let's go back here. And they are also very happy, but they say it can't replace the sniper rifle, and also not the LMG 34. But the MP38 and so on can be replaced. They do complain a bit about the magazine bags and stuff like that. Other than that, very positive here. And this is generally the case. I would skim some of these documents, but it is generally the case here in these documents that it's pretty positive. Now, I'm going to go back for the divisional commander here because he has like a summary here. And it's quite interesting if you read between the lines. He says we should totally introduce it. The MP43 is decisive in a firefight, is basically what they say, and that these new weapons cause a feeling of superiority in the German soldier because they cause heavy casualties and lower your own casualties. They are especially successful fighting in a forest against Russian scout troops who were so far superiorly armed with machine pistols, so with PPSHs. And now with the MP43, so it basically says the infantry needs to be equipped with MP43s to counter these PPSHs. That's what it says. It is very important to introduce it, and it is so good that every material, work time and costs are justified. So basically, and here he says then, if there are any industrial difficulties, you know, if there's any complaints because of that, we should say that for other weapon type, way bigger changes in the industry were made, and that the infantry, as the crown of all the weapons, has to have the same done for them, basically. So you can actually see there's a certain amount of inter-service conflict in here, and I can kind of understand this guy, because the Germans did like blow a lot of resources on really weird projects, including tanks and airplanes and so on. And I have to say the SDG-44 is kind of one of the more practical ones in that, although obviously not a war-winning one. But yeah, you can see there's a bit of passive, not even passive aggressiveness, there's a bit of aggressiveness here against the general planning of the war, I guess. Quite interesting stuff. Some more stuff here. So that one thing they say is that in a modern firefight, the rifleman is usually under 150 meters from the enemy, usually not more than 200 meters, and especially in the forest, it's especially effective, right? And yeah, they're also talking again here about different problems with ammunition. This one is, again, a 2nd Battalion, a Grenadier Regiment 272. And they say this battalion has a rifleman platoon with 16 MP43s. And they use those in several operations. And the firepower advantage is extraordinary. And it can replace all the weapons except the machine gun. So the same thing here again, and it goes into some more detail here. But yeah, quite positive again. And it also says that training the new recruits on it is quite simple. Then these guys here, this is the 1st Battalion from Grenadier Regiment 270, so the others. And it also says that it's a great weapon. And they also say we need to get a scope for it, which, as I said, never really happened. By the way, the 1.5 times scope that did exist, and there's at least one that was like in an auction, Forgotten Weapons, the guy showed it. I've never heard about these actually being used in these tests. So they never refer to the scoped rifles, they just say, would be good to have. So we need that. What they also say here, which is why I took this one into the video, is nightly attacks by the enemy. So nightly infiltration attempts could basically effortlessly, could be beaten back effortlessly, because the post, if the enemy turns up surprisingly in front of him out of the dark, the MP40 would be very if he was equipped with the MP43, it would be extremely easy to beat them back and cause casualties, including death. So yeah, this is something that you have to imagine, because this was tested in like a trench warfare environment. And this is also, I think, why they used it on these bicycle platoons, for example, first. Is that this would be used in trench raids, this would be used in patrols in no man's land, in the forest, where suddenly the enemy could appear. And this is probably in part the reason why these guys were so taken with the weapon. There are other divisions that had some more negative reports, but I don't want to make the video even longer. Lastly, let's look at reality. How did they use the SDG-44 once it was introduced? Well, Volksgrenadier division would have for each company 3 platoons. One would be a normal rifle platoon like before, and 2 would be this kind of Sturm platoon with platoon HQ. And one group would be a heavy group with 2 light machine guns in support, and the other 2 groups would just have SDG-44s. Now in this one, this is an older thing that I did for the forums back in the day. This one I also added G43s, because in practice, if they lacked enough SDG-44s, they would fall back on G43s. In fact, I have documents about that as well. Maybe I will make a later video here. So I put some G43s in here, but these were also supposed to be armed with SDG44s, and this was also sometimes achieved in divisions. And because they never got a scoped rifles, there were no scoped SDG44s in this organization, and Volksgrenadiers instead had at the company HQ a 6-man sniper squad, which was supposed to be armed with the scoped G43 mostly, and which I guess could be parceled out to these squads, or maybe used, some manuals also say they should be used like an elite counter-attacking force. So yeah, they went a bit different from their original plan here. And they also never got a rifle grenade system for the SDG-44, as you can see. Instead they had a 3-man rifle grenade troop with K98Ks, which was attached to the platoon HQ. Again, I wonder if they parceled that out to each of these teams, so each one got one rifle grenadier, or if they stayed with the platoon HQ to blast something like mini artillery. It's an interesting question. But yeah, this is basically what happened in practice. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.